Welcome to Tea, Toast, and Theology, All Things Nourishing, a podcast by The Table. Find us on the web at the-table.church.
So I'm going to share just a few of my. I can hear myself.
Yeah, echo.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm just going to share a few of my observations, and my focus today is: why do you look for the living among the dead? Why do you look for the living among the dead? Last night, God is calling. Last night, if you were at the service, I think it was like energy on steroids, right? And someone came to me and said, I have experienced your services about 3 times now, right? That's the Saturday service. And he said, I have an observation that I want to share with you. And I said, okay. And he said that I find in your group joy. Mm-hmm. Is that an understatement he made? Okay. He said, I see in you, in your group, joy. And then he went on to say, I don't see in you beat up Christians.
They're here.
Right?
Yeah, we're here.
Right? That's my first observation. My second observation from last night also, that there was such a beautiful fusion, and that was reflective of who we are as the table, right? We did this last night as well, right? And in fact, I invited the minister of the church that was hosting us, right, to come and participate in it. And he kind of looked at the water and he said, well, we don't do this, but okay. And I told him, I said, listen, my very good friend Ken Smith, who was the pastor of the Baptist church, he's now in Maine. Many years ago, I invited him to the Easter Vigil where we did this. And I said, Ken, come on, assist me with this. And he looked at it and he said, what is that? And I said, these are the baptismal waters. We are going to sprinkle everybody with it. He said, I'm a Baptist. This is not enough water for me.
Right. Immerse.
Right. But it was a beautiful fusion. And there was great joy present there of the coming of people from all different expressions to celebrate our risen Lord. And a few weeks ago, when I heard and I shared with the executive leaders, and this is confession time, that when I heard that we couldn't use the space we often use on Saturdays, I was so disappointed, and as I was writing to the executive leadership group, I thought we should just cancel the Saturday evening event. But I thought, well, I'm not going to make that decision. I'm going to ask the executive leadership, okay, what do they think? And not a single person said, oh yeah, let's cancel it, right? They all started looking for a place, right? They all started looking for a place. Where are we going to have this? And then Craig called me and said, I heard that it's not going to happen so should we just cancel the thing? Should we not rehearse for it? Should we tell the people who dance that don't, bother about it? is this event canceled? And I said to him, no, it's not canceled. He said, then where are we doing it? I said, I don't know. I don't know where we are going to do it, but I do know one thing, that God will open a door. God will open a door. I just know that. I don't know where it will open, because trust me, we did not. Those who were searching for the place, we had no clue where the door will open. But we had faith that the door will open and that we should not plan on canceling the event. And then he got back to me. He said, okay, I'm working on it. And eventually, he managed to get that space where we were in yesterday. And then a couple of days before the event, he called me and he said, well, the pastor there is actually going to be singing something. And I said, oh, really? And he said, yeah. I said, okay. And so you saw it last night, and if you missed it, it's on Facebook. He didn't just sing. He came in with his full theatrical performance, right? And he gave that whole event a true meaning of what we were trying to do. We were trying to relate that story. And he came in dressed up as Peter, right? And he got into the role, and he performed that role, and he really brought home that whole. Now, here's the thing. We just had faith that the doors will open. We don't know how. And then I said last night to them that these were just not simply doors opening. This is something beyond that, right? Because it really was. It really was. And for me, at the core of what it means to be this table is that everyone should come around the Lord's table, regardless of anything. And to my, I wouldn't say surprise, but to my delight, the piece that the dance team chose to do was exactly that. They chose that vision of John, where everyone from everywhere is coming to worship the Lamb. And they did, I thought, a beautiful job of presenting that message. Now, here's the thing, friends. We did not know even where we were going to be. And yet, God knew, and God wanted us to have faith, to keep going, to keep living into the resurrection promise. Now, here's the resurrection promise. Now, you came here and you probably thought that this Sunday is going to look like every other Sunday, because Sundays are Sundays of resurrection, right? And as Chris would remind us, as in a true table spirit, we switch things up. Right? What you experienced here today is what would happen at an Easter vigil. But we did a whole 2.5-hour service in about less than 20 minutes. Okay? And what is the point of where we began this service? Thank you for reading that long narrative. And I'm sure all of you were wondering, what has this got to do with Easter? And here's Christianity in a nutshell. That is the beginning. You know, the very first act of God was The very first act of God. Yeah. Created. Let there be light. Thank you, Mary. Let there be light. What was the description before that? That there was chaos everywhere. There was chaos. God's Spirit was there, hovering everywhere, but there was chaos. And in the midst of that darkness and chaos, God said,
Let there be light.
let there be light. That is the very first act of God. To undo chaos with creating something in a structure, because that's why we hear he did it on day one, looked at it, said, that's great. That's good, he said, right? Right? And then he did this on day two. Like, why would anyone bother to tell us this is day one, this is day two, this is day three, this is day four? Why not just say God created all of this? Right? Which, by the way, if you go through the narrative, we have another creation story which says exactly that, right? That God created everything. Doesn't say when. But this story tells us day one, day two, day three. Why? Because of where it begins, that there was chaos. And in that chaos, structure was brought in. And the very first thing that came in that structure was light. Was light. And through light came life. Right? And all of life came. You know, you probably saw, based on the slide you saw here, that in our baptismal vows, I switched a few words. From the dignity of every human person, I went to dignity of all of God's creatures. And that's from personal experience, because Ellie demands dignity. Right?
Amen.
And that's something we forget, right? We forget that we are created with every other creation. Everything else. Everything else. All of it demands our love and our respect. Right? And then there is an ordering of the universe. And then we have the story of how everything went haywire, right? And there was chaos again, and Adam and Eve found themselves out of the garden. And since then, the whole story is how to create a world which looks like the Garden of Eden. Over and over and over again, God sends God's people, prophets, to motivate God's people to understand and remember the desire of God. And the desire of God is for everybody. That whole vision of John, that is the desire of God. That everyone will be respecting the dignity of all of God's creation. That is the ultimate love that we have for God. You see, we can't claim to love God if we don't love God's creation. Right? Right? It's like saying, I love you, but I don't know about your kids. Right? That's not love. Right? That's not love. Right? So, there is order, and in that order, there is dignity, there is love. Now, my friends, the reality is that we all get surrounded by chaos and by darkness. That is our reality. That is the reality post-Eden. Right? We all get surrounded by chaos and by darkness. The story of Jesus and his passion is that darkness and that chaos did what it could do at its best. You know what the chaos did? You know what the darkness did? Yes. And
killed
it put
Jesus.
it killed Jesus. It put him on the cross. The chaos and darkness put him on the cross. I come across a lot of Christians who think, well, this is God's plan for our salvation. I said, no, you know, we all did a very good job of doing what was not the plan of God.
Right.
God's plan was not to get his son killed. God's plan was for us to understand how to love. Right? That's what God has been trying to do. But the reality of this world is that evil and darkness wants to have dominion, wants to have control. And his time on the cross happened because that evil did go to its extreme. The reason why we are the only people on this planet Earth who believe that after death life goes on is because of the experience that we remember today. Okay? And I often say that at the time of funeral, that we are the only people on the face of this earth that believe not in life after. We don't believe in the afterlife. We believe in life everlasting. That's what we believe in. There are others who believe that there will be some form of life, maybe a reincarnation, or at some day, at the end, everybody will rise from the dead. You know, there are other ideas of that, right? But we, as Christians, believe that there is life everlasting, and we believe that that life everlasting is not going to happen after our death. It is happening today. Now that's what's interesting. We don't believe that that life everlasting will happen. Once I die, I will have everlasting life. So basically, I should come to church every Sunday so that I make sure I have everlasting life. Well, that's not how it works. Right? We believe that that life everlasting is here for you today, because the idea of life everlasting is that in the midst of all this chaos, we believe in the God that says, let there be light. In the midst of this chaos, in the midst of the darkness, we who believe that life is here to stay. It's not going to come back to us some other day. It is here to stay. Yes, of course, if we can find it. Right? If we can truly believe in it. If we can say to ourselves, let us keep planning the event. We don't know how, but we believe in life. And so it will happen. Right? And so, the point I want to make today is, the two people that the women saw that day are actually saying something not to just those two women, They are saying it to all of us. Why do you keep looking for life in spaces of death? If we are honest, we all look for life in spaces of death. Right? We think, for instance, well, money will solve all problems. If only I had more money. Right? If only I had more money. Right? If only my children would listen to me. Right? If only. If only. Right? And we are looking for all these things. If only, if only, if only. Right? We are putting our trust in places of darkness. We are looking for life in places of death. We are looking for light in the places of darkness. Easter is about looking for life where it truly is. Looking for life where it truly is. My friends, I know we live in a culture where we think about self-help. We think about self-focusing. We think about all meditation, right? We think about maybe exercise will help us, sports will help us. And I'm not going to deny that, exercise can make something happen in your body and for a while you will feel good. Right? That is true. Sports can do that for you. Right? And meditation that is just focusing on something can help you focus. I'm not denying any of that. But my friends, all of those things, be it sports or money or whatever, self-help or meditation, whatever those things are, they don't answer the basic question. They don't answer the question of life. They can help resolve a momentary thing, but they do not give us the kind of joy that man was speaking about, that he witnessed amongst you. Why are these people so happy when they have no place to call their own? When they don't even know when their planned events and where they are going to happen? There is no future defined for them. Then why are they happy? The answer, my friends, is because we believe in light. We believe in life. We believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who recreates the world order all over again and teaches us actually how to do it. And that how is to take care of each other and to know that in creating order, in rejecting darkness, in rejecting chaos, in affirming human dignity and dignity of all of God's creatures, in affirming life, we receive the power of Jesus' resurrection, which manifests itself in joy, in love, in hope, in peace, and takes us to the places of life. So today, I would like for us to commit ourselves to life. Commit ourselves to engaging with the question of life. Because, my friends, all these other things that we talked about may help you momentarily, but that eternal joy, eternal peace, eternal ability to love comes through the risen Lord. Amen?
Amen.
Thank you for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe.